a quiet town, a young girl lived a happy life with her mother until one ordinary day turned tragic, shattering the little girl's innocence and reshaping her life forever. This is a journey of unimaginable hardship, of a little girl as she uncovers secrets and confronts heartbreak. Let's listen to this heartbreaking story, and also let us know where you're listening from. Emma, a spirited 5-year-old girl, cherished every moment with her mother Julia. Their life was modest but filled with love. Julia went out of her way to make Emma feel special, cooking her favorite meals, helping her with homework, and telling her bedtime stories every night. On sunny days, they would take long walks, collecting leaves and marveling at nature's wonders. Their bond was unbreakable, and for Emma, Julia was her world. Their evenings were often spent in the cozy living room, reading books or drawing together, creating a haven of warmth and creativity. One seemingly ordinary day, however, their lives took a tragic turn. It started like any other, with Emma heading to school, excited to see her friends and share her weekend adventures. Julia packed her favorite sandwich and kissed her goodbye at the door, promising to pick her up later. Emma skipped down the path, not knowing this would be the last time she saw her mother's radiant smile. In the late afternoon, the school principal called Emma to the office. Waiting there was her father, Mark. He stood near the window, his hands in his pockets, staring blankly into the distance. When Emma entered, he turned to her with a strained expression. "Emma," he began, his voice heavy with emotion. "Your mother had an accident. She's no longer with us." Emma's world crumbled. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mark avoided her eyes and delivered the words she dreaded. "She's gone, Emma. There's nothing we can do." He offered no comfort, no embrace. That evening, the house that once felt warm and lively seemed unbearably cold and empty. Emma sat on her bed, clutching the teddy bear her mother had given her, replaying the words in her mind. "Gone," she whispered to herself, unable to believe it. The shadows on the walls seemed darker, and the air felt heavy. Outside her window, the world moved on as though nothing had changed. But for Emma, it had ended. The silence of the house was deafening, punctuated only by the occasional creak of the floorboards. She felt small and lost in a world that had suddenly become too big. Emma sat on the couch, clutching a pillow as silence engulfed the house. Mark entered briefly, glancing at her. "You'll need to be strong. Things have changed, and we have to move forward," he said before retreating to his room. In the days that followed, Mark's aloofness deepened. He rarely spoke of Julia and avoided Emma's attempts to reminisce. When Emma brought up memories of her mother, like the Saturday pancake tradition, Mark dismissed her. "That won't bring her back," he said coldly. The warmth of Julia's love became a distant memory as Mark's strictness overshadowed their lives. Nights were the hardest. Without Julia's stories, Emma struggled to sleep, staring at the ceiling in despair. Her mother's perfume still lingered faintly in the house, a bittersweet reminder of what was lost. In moments of quiet, Emma would sit by the window, tracing the raindrops with her fingers and imagining her mother's comforting voice. The days stretched into weeks, each one heavier than the last. Nancy, Emma's grandmother, visited after Julia's passing. Seeing Emma's thin frame and vacant expression broke her heart. The vibrant house Nancy once knew was now unrecognizable. The cheerful art on the walls seemed duller, and the air carried an emptiness that was hard to ignore. Mark's indifference was clear as he barely acknowledged Nancy, retreating to his room while she spent time with Emma. "How are you, sweetheart?" Nancy asked, sitting beside her. "I'm fine, Grandma," Emma replied, though her voice lacked conviction. Nancy noticed Emma's cold hands and sensed the neglect. Determined to help, Nancy began visiting more often, but Mark grew hostile, accusing her of interference. One evening, Nancy discovered Emma eating a dry sandwich on the kitchen floor. "Why are you eating this? Didn't your dad make you dinner?" she asked. Emma's teary response, "He said he didn't have time," spurred Nancy to consider seeking custody. Despite her limited finances, she couldn't ignore the signs of neglect. The look in Emma's eyes haunted her. Nancy started documenting her observations. Knowing she might need proof of the neglect, she took photos of the empty fridge and kept notes of Emma's stories. Her resolve grew stronger with each visit. When Mark discovered Nancy's custody filing, he was furious, confronting her at her home. "You think you can take my daughter from me?" Nancy stood firm. "Emma needs love and care, Mark, and you're not giving her that." His anger soon turned into a calculated strategy. He began showering Emma with gifts and attention, trying to paint himself as a devoted father. "Let's go to the mall tomorrow," he suggested one evening. Emma, skeptical, nodded hesitantly. Despite the sudden attention, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Meanwhile, Mark planted doubts about Nancy, claiming she was too old and frail to care for a child. His efforts to manipulate the situation only deepened Emma's unease. "Grandma can't do everything for you," he remarked one evening. Emma listened silently, her heart heavy with confusion. She wanted to trust him, but his sudden kindness felt hollow. The house, though filled with new toys, remained cold and uninviting. One night, Emma overheard Mark's conversation with a friend. "I need this to look real. If Nancy wins custody, I'm finished," he said. His voice carried a mix of desperation and cunning, and every word sent a chill down Emma's spine. He elaborated on his plan, detailing how he intended to fabricate evidence to portray Nancy as an unfit guardian. "She's old and frail," he added, his tone dripping with contempt. "It'll be easy to convince the court she can't handle raising a child." Then came the part that crushed Emma completely. Mark spoke about the life insurance money, dismissing the emotional weight of Julia's death. "That money is the real prize," he said. "It's enough to set me up comfortably. I'll make it seem like I'm doing everything for Emma's sake, but we both know that's not the case." A hollow laugh followed, making Emma's stomach churn. Terrified and heartbroken, Emma crept back to her room. Every step felt like a monumental effort as her small frame trembled. Once inside, she sat on her bed, hugging her knees. The words she had overheard echoed in her mind, each one slicing through her trust like a blade. The father she had hoped to trust was only using her as a pawn in his selfish schemes. She replayed the recent weeks in her mind, piecing together the truth. The sudden gifts, the outings, the forced smiles, all part of a facade designed to manipulate her. "It was never real," she whispered to herself, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her small room, once a place of safety, now felt like a cage. But amidst her fear, A resolve began to form. She couldn't allow Mark to succeed. Emma resolved to protect herself and her grandmother, even if it meant facing the overwhelming challenge of standing against her father in court. That night, she barely slept, staring at the shifting shadows on her ceiling. She began to formulate a plan determined to make her voice heard and uncover the truth, for the sake of her mother's memory and her own future. The day of the hearing, Emma sat beside Nancy, clutching her hand tightly. The courthouse was imposing, its tall ceilings and heavy doors adding to the weight of the moment. Mark, confident and well-dressed, presented his case with his lawyer. They spoke eloquently, painting Mark as a devoted father who had stepped up during difficult times while casting doubt on Nancy's ability to care for Emma. The lawyer emphasized Nancy's age and limited financial means, attempting to convince the judge that her guardianship would not serve Emma's best interests. Nancy sat silently, her posture straight, but her hands trembling slightly. When it was her turn, her lawyer presented a clear and compelling case. They laid out evidence of Mark's financial manipulation, showing how he had attempted to gain control of Julia's life insurance money. Documents were displayed that highlighted the discrepancies in Mark's claims and his actions, painting a picture of neglect and self-interest. Then, the moment came for Emma to take the stand. The room seemed to hold its breath as the small girl walked to the front steps, hesitant but purposeful. Climbing onto the seat, she looked at the judge with wide eyes. "He doesn't care about me," she began, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry. "All he wants is the money. I heard him say it. He doesn't love me or my mom. He just wants everything for himself." Her words silenced the room. Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his once confident demeanor faltering. The judge watched Emma intently, her expression softening as the child's words carried the weight of undeniable truth. Emma's hands gripped the edge of the stand as she continued, tears streaming down her face. "My grandma takes care of me. She loves me, and she talks about my mom so I don't forget her. But my dad doesn't even say her name." The judge leaned forward slightly, her voice calm but firm. "Thank you, Emma. That was very brave of you." The gavel struck soon after, signaling a temporary but critical decision. The judge ordered an investigation into Emma's claims and granted Nancy temporary custody. As the sound of the gavel echoed in the room, Emma turned to Nancy, who enveloped her in a warm embrace. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma allowed herself to hope, feeling a faint but growing light in the darkness. Returning to Nancy's modest home, Emma felt a sense of safety for the first time in weeks. Nancy worked tirelessly to create a nurturing environment, filling their days with warmth and care. She continued Julia's bedtime story tradition, connecting Emma to her mother's memory. Every corner of Nancy's home held something familiar and comforting. At a park Julia had loved, Nancy watched Emma laugh and play a sound she hadn't heard in far too long. "You're my strong girl," Nancy said, holding Emma close. "And you're strong too, Grandma," Emma replied, smiling through tears. Together, they began to rebuild their lives, holding on to the love that would guide them through any storm. Life became a series of small victories. Emma made new friends, shared stories of her mother, and learned to smile again. She and Nancy crafted a life that was simple but full of hope. Though challenges remained, they faced them with unwavering strength and love. Evenings at Nancy's home were filled with laughter as they cooked together or played board games. The future wasn't just brighter, it was theirs to create together. What do you think of Emma's journey? How did her bravery and determination resonate with you? If you were in Nancy's place, would you have had the strength to fight for Emma, knowing the odds? Let us know in the comments below. And thank you for listening to Tales and Stories.